right. I told Bron Desmond last year if I didn't mess up, I'll be invited back, and Brandi Riggins is back. How about that? Yes. All right. So, welcome and happy Tuesday. Before I start, I'd like to give a huge hello to those of you in the room, those of you online, and a hearty shout out to my Guardwire Guardians watching across the globe. I feel the love, I feel the support, and I'm gonna do you proud today. So as Brian mentioned, I am the global head of DEI at Guardwire, and I'll be moderating the panel today that you're gonna watch in just a moment, Boosting the Bottom Line in Gender Diversity and Technology. So, in just a moment, I will be joined by 3 phenomenal, incredible, and amazing women, and I just cannot wait to introduce them. Each of these women has deep expertise and experience in technology, in insurance, and my own personal favorite, leadership. And they will all bring their unique perspective and insights to the topic today. Now, I have had the pleasure to get to know them in the time leading up into this panel, and I'm certain that you're gonna find them just as inspiring as I have. So, feel free, hint, hint, to give them your best stadium welcome ever as they come on the stage as I announce them. You're gonna have Carol Ann Goff, Executive General Manager, Insurance Platforms for IAG, Australia and New Zealand, Renee Buford, President and CEO of Chair of the Board of Hastings Mutual Insurance Company, and last but not least, Tatiana Laukovich, Senior Vice President and Chief Technology at Definity. Here they come. All right, ladies, I got them warmed up. They're ready for you. I'm Ellen, and we're about to do this thing. Okay. So I'd like to start a little bit because I know you, but I like the crowd to get to know you as well. So I'm going to give you a little time to tell a little bit about yourselves. Carolyn, let's start with you.
Okay, start with me. Hi, everyone. Good to see so many people in the room. It's very exciting. So I've been in the technology industry for over 30 years. I think my bio says 20, but it's actually 30. And for the last 20 in and around insurance and financial services. So it's an industry that's been very heavily male-dominated, and quite often I found myself the only woman in the room or part of a very small minority. And whilst I've had some great male role models and leaders, and I've been very fortunate to have some great mentors, I've always wondered why there weren't more women in those roles. And particularly in technology, where there's so many great career opportunities and jobs for women. So I'm just always curious about what gets in the way. And I guess it was about halfway through my career when I actually found myself in a team that was quite diverse. It was quite different to anything else I'd experienced. And I went, wow, this is different. I was in a team that probably had more women than men, pretty unique. But it wasn't just the gender diversity, it was the diversity of background and experience that that team had at the time. And it was probably the first time that I actually felt like I could be myself, and I could bring my whole self to that job. Not only that, I felt like we were achieving things in different ways. We were working in different ways. We were connecting, we were coming up with ideas. It was energising. And I went, wow, this is amazing. I'd really like a lot more of this. So that was at the point when I went, we're actually not doing the best thing by our people, our business and our customers if we're not creating those environments. So that's why this topic is particularly important to me, and I'm delighted to be part of the conversation today.
Thank you, Carol Ann. Renee.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Renee Buford. I've been in the insurance industry my entire career. Currently, I work for Hastings Mutual Insurance Company. I'm the chairwoman of the board, the president, and CEO. And similar to Carol Ann, I know what it's like to be the only woman in the room. Throughout my career, when I started as a field adjuster. There were 140 people in our division, and I was the only woman in the field. So imagine going on Hurricane Andrew and being the only woman among 139 gentlemen. So it was always an opportunity throughout my career to be the only one, and so that's why I'm so passionate about women in leadership. I spend a great deal of my time mentoring and working in schools, really mentoring the young women in STEM programs, encouraging them that there are opportunities for women in STEM-related fields, and really being the example and being able to show them that it is possible, and really working with them. So that's why I'm so passionate about women in leadership.
Thank you. Tati?
Yes, good morning. My name is Tatiana Lalkovic. I am Chief Technology Officer at Definity. I just joined Definity about 3 years ago. I had a phenomenal ride. And throughout my career, I was in financial industry, driving digital transformations. So one of the things that I love doing is, leveraging innovative technologies to solve business problems, and that kind of motivates me every day. Another thing that really motivates me is being a really passionate advocate for women in leadership. And why is that important to me? Personally, as a woman in technology and mother of 2 daughters in STEM, I feel it's my role to help build next generation of female leaders and help them through the path to get there. And it's always inspiring to hear the stories like Tracy's. So I want to be part of that story.
Thank you. Thank you. So as we were doing prep for the panel, one of the things that we talked about as a group collectively was how diversity actually affects the bottom line for companies. And so one of the things that I want to talk to the group about is how do you see diversity driving business success? And we wanted to also give you all tangible examples to take away. So any examples from your career that you would share would also be great. And then Tatiana, we'll start with you first.
Great. So my belief is that every company that focuses and puts the customer in the center prospers. So building really exceptional customer experiences, whoever your customer might be, is so important for the company to do well. And studies and metrics show that that's the case. But really to build customer experiences that are relatable to the customers, your team that builds those experiences needs to reflect the diversity of the customers you serve. Mm-hmm. So it's very important that we all work towards that, whether it's achieving gender equality or other diversity or diversity of thought. And the second thing is, as I mentioned, I'm really passionate about innovation, and I think that companies today, with the change in technology to stay and keep current, need to continuously change and innovate. And if from the design, even from the design thinking principles, you need to have unconstrained, diverse voices around the table to really generate the outcomes that will drive your business forward. So it's not only right thing to do, but it's really good thing to do for the business.
Thank you. Renee, do you want to add?
So to build on Tatiana's comments, I would say that diversity in the workplace is important so that you understand your customers' needs. I think that is one of the biggest things for us as an organization who is customer facing. It's important that all of us are at the table. If you take a look around the room, all of you are customers, right? And all of you right here today are diverse. And we have different characteristics. We can bring different experiences and values to the table. And so it is important that we understand our customers. And I think when you have a diverse workforce, you understand your customers' needs, you can innovate, and then provide the appropriate solutions. And then on top of that, it's also important to have a diverse workforce. All of us right now as organizations, we struggle with talent shortages. So if you have a diverse work environment, people are going to be more comfortable coming to work at your organization. So diversity isn't just about the customers, it's also about creating the appropriate environment for everyone to come to work in a positive, inclusive environment. And when you do that, it's much more fun to come to work. And it's a lot more fun, and it comes through to your customers.
And that is a great segue into my next question. I promise we didn't practice this. Look how we're flowing together so well. So, you talked about a couple of things that I want to hit on, and that was around the environment and having different perspectives. So when perspectives are missed, when you don't have the right environment and support to know and to actually understand those experiences, as a leader, how do you stay mindful of who's at the table? But not only that, how do you stay mindful of who's missing from the table? So Renee, let's start with you on that question.
So you bring up a great point. It's not just about having a different person at the table. When you're at the table and you're the only one at the table, do you truly bring your whole self there? You tend to toe the company line. You tend to stay within the current culture. So how did the company benefit from my skill set, from my thoughts, my innovative ideas, if I don't provide an environment where they feel safe to share that information? So it's not just about having people at the table. It's also about providing that safe and inclusive environment so they can transcend and have all of their amazing innovative ideas shared with everyone.
Caroline?
Absolutely, can I sort of pick up on that one? So I think there's two key roles for leaders. The first one is making sure we understand who is around the table. And this isn't a tick a box exercise. I've got a couple of women, I've got different demographics represented. For me, it's really about understanding who those people are and what experience and background they bring to the conversation and the ideas. And that takes time. It's actually connecting with the people and talking to them and actually building a relationship and a connection with them. And then going, have I got the right people? What you see is not always what you get, but what you get quite often is much deeper than you might appreciate. So it's about taking the time to appreciate the people that are around the table and valuing their perspective. Then once you've got that group, it's a safe environment. How do you create that safe environment? How do you create the environment of trust? And my experience has been that if people get to understand you, then you need them to trust. They need to trust you. When they say something and they've got a perspective, that you're going to listen to it and you're going to do something about it. So how do you create trust? How do you get that connection? Particularly important. And I think the other thing that then drives is they'll share ideas. You've got to act on them. You've got to be genuine about actually doing something with that perspective. People will look to you as a leader and we're role models, and the more we do that, the more we can scale that type of activity as well. And most importantly, I would actually ask those people, once you've got that environment of trust, have we got the right people around the table? Are we missing someone? And they'll be the best people to tell you if we're missing someone. We need to get this person over here from this organisation with this background. Fantastic, that's what you want people to be telling you.
And one of the things that I heard you say that's going to stick with me is listening, because listening is the foundation that actually builds trust to actually start the journey. So I want to talk about something now that all of you have heard of, and that's around the best person for the job. So I want to redefine that a bit. Are there things that we can do to redefine best person for the job, to recognize those skills, those perspectives, and the backgrounds that may be different from the stereotypical? Tatiana?
So I think it's in our attempts to achieve what the right thing to do is and kind of have more diverse environments. We set some metrics and targets, and it's important that that doesn't leak into a conversation. We got to hire a woman for this job because nobody wants to be selected or not be selected based on the gender or your background. There's a lot that those candidates bring to the table. So what's really important and what we can do is start with that diverse slate, really give an opportunity to select the best candidate with the best talent, but have an opportunity to have that diverse slate. And the other thing that I recently read and I thought that was really impactful is how do we create actually panelists that interview the candidate to be a diverse group of people, because everyone is more comfortable and performs the best in those interviews when they can relate to your interviewer. So I think those are very important things to keep in mind to select the right person for the job.
Thank you.
And for me, the word is perception. Perception in two ways. Quite often the perception of a role is quite different to the reality, and particularly for women, may have a perception that the role is bigger, different to what they think, and how do we actually make it more real? How do we demystify the role? And I think the other perception aspect is people have perception of individuals because they see them in certain roles and potentially can't see them in a different type of role. And how do we break that down? Because that can often block career pathways for people. So our role as leaders, again, I think, is to help demystify the roles so that people can see that might be an option for them, and then demystify or get rid of the perceptions around individuals that may not actually be true or valid. So,
Thank you, Carol Ann. So at Guidewire, we just hosted our first inaugural Women's Executive Summit, and this is a topic that I'm about to discuss that came up, and it was around the balancing of different roles. And just thinking about our personal conversations on the panel, you know, we are moms, we are spouses, we are sisters, we are daughters, we are aunts, and we also wear large hats at our roles. And you bring up a good point, Carol Ann, around the demystification of that. How do you demystify the role of a senior leader with the balance of the different roles? And then how do we then create pathways for people so that they can do the same thing too? And I actually like to hear from everyone around this topic.
I'll kick off if you like.
All right.
Demystifying is one that's particularly important to me. I actually sponsor our Women in Leadership program at IAG, and we've had a few of the programs run now, and early in the program I come along and do a Q&A session. Every time I can guarantee the questions I will get. It'll be, what's a day in a life look like? What's really in that role? And when I answer the questions, you can see the light bulbs go on, and it's actually quite different to what they might think. How do you do it all? So I think it's about sharing our experiences, mentoring, and I think we'll talk a little bit about that, mentoring particularly important. The other thing I think is important is actually helping people walk in the shoes of those roles, and it might not be do the role, but bring them along with you, help them see what actually goes on, bring them into meetings, into conversations, actually get a sense of reality, and provide the opportunities for them to stand in a role for a period of time. That, for me, you know, is benefit in a number of ways. They get to stretch themselves, they get to see what they're capable of, people get to see them in a different light, and they might then get to see that that role might need something quite different that they bring that they may not have seen otherwise. So they're the ways that I like to demystify.
I would just like to build on Carol Ann's comments. At Hastings Mutual, one of the things that we do with all of our new employees is we go through an orientation program, and they get to spend a roundtable discussion an afternoon with the officers. And we share our own path to leadership. And we talk about what we've done well, what our successes are, what our challenges have been, and a lot of our learnings. And we also encourage them to stretch. It's okay if you want to do something different than you're doing. It's all about what talent do you bring to the organization. And so it's an opportunity for them to sit down with the senior leaders and speak to them about their path. And we also, to your point, we talk about what we do, what our roles entail. And it's very interesting that they actually believe we don't stay up at night worrying about things. And that's one of the questions, what keeps you up at night? And it's like, well, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things I could share with you. And so it's really a nice opportunity for the teams to look at us and get to know us as people, but also as leaders, and how all of us work together in order to ensure the success of our organization. As leaders, we are the culture. And culture lives and breathes in our actions and in our words. And so our most powerful thing that we can do is provide that positive and inclusive environment.
Thank you.
Yeah, lots of good comments. I echo that. I also think that panels like this and presentations like Tracy's, and even within Definity, within our own programs, you know, having those panels and having those open conversations, sharing experiences, is super important to help.
So final question for today. We've talked a lot about where we need to, what we need to do, where we need to go. Now let's get specific, because I did say we wanted to have some takeaways for people in the audience. What can we do as leaders to help? What can we do?
So I'll kick that off. Throughout my career, I have been very fortunate to have people who have inspired me, who have challenged me, who have believed in me. and to let me be myself, and that has made all the difference in the world. And so it's my role and responsibility to pay it forward, and I am all about mentorship. That's why I choose to work with the schools and work with nonprofits to mentor the next generation of women leaders, to encourage them and to inspire them so that they too know that they have a place at the table and that they too can be just as successful in STEM-related programs. It's just so important that they see people like them be successful, and so that's why I'm so passionate about the mentorship, and I think that is one of the most important things that we could do.
So from my perspective, I think a lot about underrepresentation, pipeline-related, in technology particularly, and in STEM. And I really feel that it's important to start those conversations early. I will tell you, I wanted to be an artist. I never wanted to be a technologist, and I love what I do every day. And I wonder if I had early understanding how creative and how amazing a technology job can be, I would be much more eager to start thinking about my path in life through the technology lens. And so I think, and spend a lot of time and trying to speak to young girls to inspire and kind of tell them what amazing number of opportunities you have to build a technology career. And I managed to do that with my 2 daughters, so very, very proud of that.
And I'll wrap it up with my comment.
All right.
Okay, so I think as leaders, it's our job to find out what's getting in the way. What are the blockers? And I look at some of the best leaders that I've had in my career, and there's 2 things that stood out for me. One was they really wanted to understand what was important to me. They took the time. We're all different. There are different things from a family and a career and a job perspective, so they really wanted to understand that. And then secondly, how they could help me. They were very generous with their time and their knowledge and their insight, but it was relevant to the first conversation, right, about what was important to me. And I felt like they were doing everything they could to help me be successful. And I just think about Martin Short yesterday. He said the first thing was hang time. So the first bit is about getting to know people and really understanding them. And then secondly, do the best you can to help people. You've got to do it yourself as well, but how are you helping people as much as possible? And then the final thing I was going to say is around diversity. Getting it right is really hard sometimes. And I think if we create that really safe environment and trusting environment, if we don't quite get it right, people will go, you're getting this right, but maybe not that. So here's what I think we need to do there, and we can all be better as a result. So.
Did I tell you they were amazing? I told you, right? So in closing, I do want to wrap us up, and I just want to start off by saying, like, this has been a great experience for me to sit here with you all. I have learned so much from you in this conversation, and even in the months of time that we had of prep, and just getting to know you and the work, and so I appreciate the experience of that. I do want to leave with this, you all. It does take everyone in the room to do the work. I preach this all the time, and that is where inclusion comes into play. And I want to leave you with this. We should all remember, everyone in this room, I always tell people, do not wait to get invited to the table. Pull up a chair or build your own table. And with that being said, thank you.